order and determining our quorum. Denise Davis, Diane Becker.
Here.
Roxana Dunn here. And Chris Wood online. That gives us 4, which gives us our quorum. So let's go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Our flag is over here. So Melissa, why don't you do that one?
Oh boy, it's been a long time.
Starts with I pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. If you've ever tried to sing the national anthem by yourself, you'll quickly learn that you don't know the words as well as you thought you did. But I give you courage for trying to sing it, because that in itself is quite a challenge. Let's go to item number 3 on the agenda, which is general public comment. We will start with anyone in the room and then go to folks online. So online, if you would like to state anything, please raise your hand. And you have 3 minutes. We ask that you state your name, and if you're in the room, come to the microphone. Is there anybody out in our surprise audience tonight that wants to come to give general comment? Okay, just in general, you can speak about anything that is an issue in your mind in the area, or any policy thing you would like to advocate. You only get 3 minutes, so you have to be concise. We get a lot of good input from our community via that. So if you have something in the future, please come back. Do we have anyone online? No. Is it just a word? Here we go. Okay. All right. So we don't have general public comments. So we'll go to Commissioner Hill, also not here. So we're just zipping down this one very quickly. Number 5 is board member announcements, requests, and discussions. There has been, I just received an email that indicated that Tahoe Connect is going to cease operation in Incline Village, Crystal Bay. It will continue on the California side, but we have lost our Nevada funding for it. And so that's going by the by.
TART Connect.
What did I say?
Tahoe Connect.
TART Connect. Okay, thank you. And I just make this comment with Alexandra here. I should introduce Alexandra Wilson is our support liaison. So she supports the Board of Commissioners in Washoe County, and she is our link. I call her our minder sometimes because of the way she behaves, but she's our link to the county. And I would just like to make this comment about the end of TART Connect, and that is I really hope there will be an emphasis put on sidewalk maintenance this winter, because there'll be many people, I think, that are having to walk, and I don't want to see them in the middle of Highway 28, as has happened.
Can I add a comment to that?
Yes.
According to other folks who have been asking for that, sidewalks are priority 4 in the county's plowing order, except for sidewalks that go to schools.
Right.
And so the comment was, if we want to see it moved up as a priority, then people need to tell their commissioner that we would like to see that at a higher priority.
Okay. Diane?
So I have 2 things I'd like to say on
name.
Oh, Diane Becker, on the TART Connect funding. I think that this is something that is important to all of us to start writing to our commissioner in terms of a budget item, but also asking that they look at making this one of the things that they spend funding on that is collected by the Washoe Tahoe Tourist Association. I've sent them under their 2 prior CFOs information and legal analysis on why they could pay for TART Connect out of the funds that are collected on the TOT, the transient occupancy tax. That that would be an excellent use of the transient occupancy task, better than advertising for North Star and Palisades for sure, for skiing. So I wanted to urge that somehow the county takes some action to try to help us get the TART funding back. That is needed for people who are seniors. That is needed for all of our J1s. That's the only way they get to work, else I guess they get to walk. And it's a really important thing for people to write to their commissioner and to anyone that they can write to on that subject. Thank you.
When is the funding being, when is it cut? When is it being ended?
I'm sorry.
December 11th.
Yes, December 11th is when it's stopping.
Okay, I got another announcement. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, Denise Davis. As a reminder, we are in Red Day, Green Day parking season. That started November 1st. And you can call 775-833-5555 to find out if it's a red day or a green day. That one seems to be updated and pretty current. You can also go on the county's website under Where is my plow? I would just Google Washoe County, where is my plow? And at the bottom of the map, it will tell you red day or green day. That one sometimes is a little less current. So I would urge you to use the phone number, which is 775-833-5555.
Okay. Good. All right, any other announcements from the board? Requests? All right, safety updates, and we do have, where'd he go? Ryan Sommers, Chief Sommers from the North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District. Chief Sommers.
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Awesome. I just want to make sure you can hear me because I don't have the option to mute or unmute. So I'm
Okay.
sorry I haven't been to any of the meetings lately. It's been a busy summer, not locally, which was really good, but we were, in other states helping them out. Some updates from us is we just recently concluded fire extinguisher training with the Incline Middle School students. That went very well. Pile burn operations are going to continue throughout the district. We aren't going to burn this week because of the holiday. But if you would like to be signed up to know when we are burning and where, you can go onto our website, I believe, and/or email our PIO, Andreina, and she'll get you on what we call our smoke sensitive list, and you'll be notified of when we're planning on burn and where we're planning on that. And then we'll participate in the Northern Lights Community Celebration on December 6th. And then we put a press release out on holiday tree watering safety tips. So if you go get that live Christmas tree, make sure you keep it watered. And that's the end of my short report, unless anybody has any questions.
Okay, we have a question from Diane Becker.
Hi, Ryan, Diane Becker. I have a question to know if you're aware of this. It's a document that just came out 2 weeks ago, or at least was publicly known. There's a 2024 Ladris AI Placer County contraflow comparison analysis on fire evacuation. And that analysis added 5 to 8 hours of evacuation time if it's an evacuation that's going to include contraflow from Incline Village. And I know that we're still, that you guys are working, or that you, the county, and are working towards getting us a fire evacuation analysis. But, when we did a very uneducated analysis that we presented to all of the commissioners, and I believe to you and others, we said that it would add something, but they're saying it's going to be an increase of 35% to 125% of the evacuation time just from Placer County, which will affect, obviously, Incline Village if we're going to be evacuating in that direction. Is that something that the local fire district can look at and maybe start advocating for more attention to the fire evacuation issues when they're planning development issues? Or is that something that the fire district cannot ever say anything about evacuation? Because that really worried me, that new study that we just learned about.
Yeah, so we do get if anybody puts in a permit for significant development, we obviously get some input to that through the planning agency of Washoe County, and we do try to recognize and note on evacuations, but I'm going to tell you we have not had as much success with that and them listening to that part of it. Now, whether if it's a bad communication on our part, which I highly doubt because my fire marshal John James is very much in communication with planning, weekly at Washoe County. And I'm not saying they're a great partner. They are a great partner, but that is lower on the list than we would like it to be. I'd like to ask a clarifying question to you. 35 to 125%, which way? Is it better or worse? Or because you also spoke about contraflow, and we have approached NDOT, Nevada Department of Transportation, and I'm sorry, it's Ryan Summers if didn't start off with that. We have talked to NDOT about contraflow, and we were denied that. And there's some good reasons for that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing because we would have to get some help into Incline Crystal Bay for such an event. And with contraflow, we wouldn't be able to get those resources in here. So I'm curious what that percentage is exactly saying.
It's saying that the traffic flow increase that Placer County needs to consider in its evacuation plan would be increased by 35 to 125%.
Okay.
So I think one of the things that I was going to urge is, since they're just doing the presentation, or not the presentation, the request for proposals now, is that that a consideration is given to adding an analysis of contraflow, because this was presented in 2024, and I have been watching the meetings and going to TARPA. That's how I learned about this document that just came to light. But the person who presented this contraflow analysis to Placer County said that it was an insignificant increase. And I think a 5 to 8 hour increase is not, it is not insignificant. I'm just hoping that because the fire district, I know you guys have our backs, and I think we all really appreciate you. But I want to make sure that you are aware of this study. I will give you a summary, because I have a summary now of it that I wrote after reading it. But I will hope that you will really look at this and at least push for some analysis of what's going to happen even to our evacuation if the evacuation is going the opposite way. And also consider this in our evacuation going through Kings Beach, because when we even mentioned that a little bit of increase, and we didn't put much of an increase when we put ours together, because we're not sophisticated and we were just asking that the county start looking at this. It was as if that was not important. Each city and municipality and local government will take care of their problems, but I think it's a much bigger issue than it's being treated as. So we would appreciate any help from the fire district. And if you'd like, I'll send you a summary of it's a pretty detailed summary, but it's a big report. So the summary is, just a couple of pages.
Yes, if you could, that'd be great. This is the first I've heard of it. And I look forward to reading that. And then the person that said that this is not a significant increase, I don't understand that whatsoever. It's probably a contractor from outside the area. So we have to pay attention to that.
I'll give you that information, but there's no reason to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Roxana, done. And just for folks in the room and online who may not know what contraflow refers to, that's when you take a 2-lane highway that's normally north and south, and you make it all north or all south. And so in an evacuation, that's a possibility. But if you have emergency vehicles coming in, then it's not always possible to do that. Plus, you have to deal with all the intersections where people are surprised if the traffic is flowing differently. So it is a tactic, but it's not always used. Ryan, I'm sorry, Chief Summers, I have a question. I'm on the evacuation committee, and I'm on the modeling committee for the evacuation study. We have chosen Perimeter as the evacuation modeling software. In other words, that would be the software we use to track traffic flow and people movement and that sort of thing. My understanding is that, and I think this is my understanding, I believe I heard, that the fire modeling, so finding software to model the movement of fire was being handled by the fire departments. Is that anything you're aware of? Are you participating? Do you know?
Yes, so I'm very much aware of that. I did hear that Perimeter got the evacuation, which is really good. They've done very well for us on the notifications. I look forward to conversations with Bailey on that, their CEO. But the fire modeling, we are working on that with Dr. Mahmood is his name from I believe is it either Penn State or Colorado State. And he does more of a conflagration study, which could be the issue for us in Incline. And so far, what I've seen in some trials, if you will, it's very promising. I will tell you, he was 80% correct with the Lahaina fire. And so we do look forward to more conversations with him and actively engaging him in more. I can't say the entire district at once because that's big, but what we're going to do is start sectioning it out with him, and he's got a very successful product from what I've seen. The other thing too is we've got actually it's really cool to live in Incline or work in Incline because we've got some people that work for the National Institute of Wildfire who are also on this, and another company called Vibrant Planet. Now, I'm not here to advocate for one certain company, but I am going to tell you when companies come to us with a solution and show us the product that we are looking for at the right price, I can talk about them all day long. And Vibrant Planet is telling us where some of the concerned areas are, and that's what we're basically modeling our fuel removal efforts on. We take what they've shown us, and then that's where we stick our fuel crews, or we go and start doing what I call extreme gardening or stick stacking, right? To reduce that wildfire threat in those certain areas. But it's one giant elephant, and we're taking a bite at a time. And I'm very well aware of all of those that are happening right now. And when I feel comfortable with working with those contractors that we work with and Washoe County Emergency Management, we can start releasing some of that information.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's see, anybody else on the board? And Chris, I am trying to remember you're there. And so
Lieutenant Tone has joined us. Lieutenant Tone.
I know, but do we have any more questions for Chief Sommers? Anyone in the room have questions for Chief Sommers? Okay, then our other safety announcements come from our Sheriff's Department. And what is this again?
Lieutenant Nick Tone.
Lieutenant Nick something.
And I'm sorry, if I could stay online, I would like to, but if you could mute me, I'd appreciate it. I don't have the option.
Hello, Incline. My name is Lieutenant Nick Tone, Washoe County Sheriff's Office. I'm the watch commander for Valley Patrol on the front side of the week. Some of you guys may recognize me. Up until June of this year, I was doing all of your Friday community forum meetings, and I spent just over 6 years up here in Incline. So I'm very familiar with the area and some of your concerns and things that go on in the community up here. A couple things I have for you. Our Q3 report card was just published. So I had a couple of updates for you specific to Incline Crystal Bay, which the Sheriff's Office refers to as 7 beat. If you ever hear, you guys are designated number 7, lucky 7. The total calls for service up here, typically everybody's surprised to hear, 3-year average, 3,807 calls for service for the third quarter of the last 3 years, down a little bit. We're down to 3,510 calls for service and deputy initiated law enforcement activity for Q3 of this year. A couple things of note that I've talked about at all the other caps, and Incline Village is no different. Our fraud offenses remain rather high. We've had 8 fraud offenses so far this quarter, and what we are pushing out that I want everybody to understand is these frauds are very typically the form of impersonation frauds. You will get a phone call, something of that nature, where they are impersonating a public official, law enforcement, the district attorney's office, whole variety of any authority, if you will. And they ask for some kind of payment. And that payment can be from anything from goofier sounding ones for gift cards all the way down to the more prevalent ones right now, which are the Bitcoin scams. They will ask you to have some kind of very convincing story about why you owe money, to pay a warrant, to pay a fine, to pay a fee. To the courts, we get that very often as well. And they'll ask you to go put money into a Bitcoin ATM and pay them. There are Bitcoin ATMs in Incline Village. There's 3 of them, last time I checked. They are a legitimate business. It is a legitimate way to purchase cryptocurrency if you so desire. That's why they exist, and that's why they're allowed to exist. But unfortunately, nefarious actors do use these Bitcoin ATMs for ill intent. That being said, we want to push out there that no government agency, and as far as I've been able to find, no legitimate business transaction is going to ask you to go put money into a Bitcoin ATM and pay with cryptocurrency. Maybe someday, but as of right now, that is not a thing. And if you ever get a phone call in person, somebody's calling asking you for that, call us and ask. There's no problem with it. If I'm nearby, I'll be happy to talk to them for you. I've mentioned at the other cabs, I've had the very unusual, very unique circumstance of a scammer calling me to scam me, impersonating me.
Really?
I could not even tell you how happy I was when I got that phone. Best thing you can do, I recommend just hanging up on them. But knowing what I know, I kept them on the phone for about an hour, and that was tremendously upsetting for them. So I'll take that as a win. One other piece for fraud, a lot of people don't know about this program. It's put on through the Nevada Attorney General's office. It is the identity theft, I think they refer to it as a card program. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office is a certifying agency for this program. What it is, if you or anybody you know is a victim of identity theft and a criminal case has been drawn or some kind of case has been drawn for it, you can go to the Attorney General's office or online, fill out this form. We will certify its accuracy, and they'll give you this card that shows that you've been the victim of identity theft. What you can use that for, you go to the bank, you go to any financial institutions or whatever else, and it's essentially an explanation as to why your credit is frozen, your financial life is in some kind of turmoil or confusing. So it's essentially a way where we can certify that this is happening to you. And we have had feedback that people have found that beneficial. There's another similar program at the federal level through the Federal Trade Commission. We can certify that as well. It's not a card, it comes in the form of an affidavit. But 2 different options that we have, and that is something that we can do. All of your deputies up in Incline Village, they can do that as well. That isn't something that has to be done at par. That isn't something that necessarily has to be done in person. If you give us a call and have questions on it, we can send somebody to go take care of that for you as well. Besides that, like I said, down a little bit on calls for service, not a lot of notes. Burglaries, we are down from a 3-year average for Q3, 5, down to 1 for Q3 of this year. So that was nice to see. Vehicle thefts are one of our crimes that is up. Most of those cases were drawn from the casinos. So that seems to be a typical location for that kind of activity to occur. Besides that, that is the cliff notes of our Q3 report. Did anybody have any questions for me, Sheriff's Office, me specifically? Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm still waiting to get my money from that Nigerian prince, so. Thank you for your help with these things. All right, we're ready to move on to agenda item number 7, which is our Incline Justice Court overview. And I know a year or 2 ago, there was talk of closing the court here in town, which would have meant we all would have to go to Reno for various things, but they have kept it open. And this is Justice of the Peace, Melissa, and I don't have it in front of me, but I can do it. Yes.
It's right there.
Mangiaracina.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Melissa Mangiaracina, and I am our local Justice of the Peace. And I think it was 5 days ago that Roxana stopped me in the parking lot out here and asked me if I would present tonight. So bear with me that I haven't had a whole lot of time to put this together. But the timing was perfect because the Board of County Commissioners has asked me to come and speak to the county in January. And so this gave me an opportunity to put something together as sort of a first attempt at what that might look like. And I would love your feedback in terms of what works, what I've left out, what we need to focus on when I talk to the county next month, because as Roxana said, we want to make sure that our justice court remains and that we are providing services to the community. And we do some really, I think we do some really great things. So I'm happy to share tonight sort of what we're doing, what we've done since I took the bench, and what my visions are moving forward. So the way I understand it works is I'll speak for a bit, and then folks will have an opportunity, 3 minutes each, to share whatever they would like. So if you have thoughts or comments or questions or anything, please save them until the end. And then I will furiously take notes and take down all of your suggestions so that I can take it to.
Let me interrupt you because I should have included this in the introduction. Our original speaker dropped out 1 week in advance. And Justice Melissa was nice enough to step in on very short notice. When she said she was giving this presentation to the commissioners in January, I said, great, don't try to polish it. And we want it in a rough draft form because then we can give you input on it. So I'm counting on you folks and all of you online as well to be looking for what are the messages we want to communicate to the county commissioners regarding our court.
Yeah, this is our chance.
Thank you particularly, Melissa, for
Of course,
doing this on such short notice.
of course. Like I said, it worked out as long as everyone understands that I don't have as much data as I would normally like to have at something like this. So anyhow, I'm here on behalf of the Incline Village Crystal Bay Justice Court. So where are we? If you haven't had the opportunity to visit us, we are actually right next door in the next building over at the Incline Village Community Center. We share that space with the library and senior services. So if you haven't been into the building, come and check it out. Before you go through security to get to the courthouse, on your left, there's a large conference room, kind of similar to this room that can be rented out, and a small office space that can be rented out. So sometimes attorneys will rent it out to meet with clients, professionals will rent it out to use the space. And then if you go to the right, you will see our security officer, and then you'll go through the metal detectors to get back to the courthouse. So we're open Monday through Thursday, Mondays and Thursdays from 9 to 4, because we don't generally have court on those days unless I have to set special hearings. And then Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 8 to 4, because we are pretty much in court all day on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Mondays we have reserved for our mediations. Tuesdays are our civil calendar, Wednesdays are our criminal calendar, and then Thursdays we use for special set hearings. We are small but mighty. We added it up, and there are 4 total humans, full-time employees between all of us at the court. So myself, I'm the Justice of the Peace. We do have a full-time court administrator who is absolutely incredible. She started as a clerk at the front window. She worked her way from civil clerk to criminal clerk to the former Justice of the Peace had her as his assistant. And then right when I came on, she was promoted to court administrator, and she runs the court. And it's really incredible because she literally has worked her way up and has been in every single position except for judge. So she really understands how the court works in and out. We also have a criminal clerk. The criminal clerk sits next to me on the bench. So if you ever come in for criminal hearings, you'll see a clerk sitting next to me. She keeps the minutes. She manages all of the motions and pleadings and is constantly in contact with the attorneys. And then we have our civil clerk, who is generally the person who you would talk to if you come to the front window. And our civil clerk started last Monday. So she's brand new. She's wonderful. We stole her from the middle school. I don't think they were very happy with us, but we're really happy about it. I think she's going to be amazing. We also have a deputy clerk who is the person who does our drug testing and case management for folks that are on probation or on a suspended sentence. And then we have a support specialist who basically comes in as needed, most often if the deputy clerk is out for some reason. We also have 2 non-court staff. So they're not employed by the court, but they're there for us at the court every day that we're open. Our bailiff is actually a deputy from the sheriff's office. And we have a security guard from Allied who's at the front. If you walk into the building, you'll see him out front. So what are we? We are what's referred to as a court of limited jurisdiction. Think People's Court, if you ever watched that back in the day when it was on TV, or Judge Judy. People like to call me Judge Melissa because they can't say my last name. I don't think that I run the court at all like Judge Judy, but it is the same idea, right? It is literally our community's court. So anything that starts in our community at some point is most likely going to touch our court in some form or another. And that can be either civil matters or criminal matters. We do all of them. And we cover Incline Village and Crystal Bay. So it's considered the Incline Village and Crystal Bay Township. Every township has its own justice court. So by statute, we are required to have a justice court here. So any claims that we don't need a justice court up here, that would go against the statute to require us to go over to Reno. So what do? Our civil matters there are kind of 5 areas that we cover. We cover civil infractions. It used to be that all traffic violations were considered criminal. And the Nevada legislature and many other states took a look at that and said, does it really make sense that somebody has a misdemeanor conviction on their record for driving 6 miles an hour over the speed limit? Maybe not, right? So our legislature changed most of the minor traffic violations and made them civil in nature, meaning that you don't have a criminal conviction on your record. There's a lower standard of proof. So instead of proving the violation beyond a reasonable doubt, it has to be proven by a preponderance of the evidence. And it's a less formal proceeding. So the evidentiary rules are relaxed. They're not ignored, but they're not as strict as they would be in a criminal case. So any of your minor traffic violations and your parking tickets fall under civil infractions. And I pulled some rough numbers, and I would say about 80% of our cases, because of the nature of Incline Village and Crystal Bay, and think East Shore, if you ever drive down East Shore on a summer day, all those parking tickets, right, are falling into that piece of what we do at the courthouse. So we run through all of those. We also hear in our court small claims and civil cases. Small claims are simple money damage cases up to $10,000 only. You can't get attorney's fees, so it's really rare to have an attorney. And the idea of those cases is that they're generally community disputes. I mean, these are truly what our community court is for, where there may be neighbor disputes or dog disputes, or somebody hired someone to plow the snow on their driveway and they didn't do it. Those are the types of cases that come into small claims court. We also hear civil cases, but those are more complex in nature, and they have a maximum of $15,000. So those are rare in the justice court, because most people that would bring a civil case, they're either going to go with the simplicity of the small claims, or they have a larger claim and they're going to have to go over the hill to Reno, which has a higher jurisdictional limit. We hear and decide protection orders for stalking and harassment. We do not handle protection orders for domestic violence anymore. We used to. Those have gone over the hill to the 2nd Judicial District Court. The idea is that those are family law matters, and so we want one court, one family. So we don't have a protection order here in the Justice Court and then the family law case in Reno, judges not talking. So that was the idea behind moving that. So our protection orders are for stalking and harassment, and they look lots of different ways. And then, of course, we do evictions and landlord-tenant matters. So criminal matters, again, we touch basically everything that starts in Incline Village or Crystal Bay. So I issue search and arrest warrants, as our lieutenant knows. They'll reach out to me any time of the day or night. So those 9 to 4 hours on Monday through Thursday don't count for judges. That was for the court actually being open to the public. We do criminal traffic violations, so that not the minor ones. Think, driving under the influence, reckless driving, the bigger traffic violations. Those are going to be charged by the district attorney as a criminal matter. So we hear those in our criminal court on Wednesdays. I do 48-hour bail hearings. So just that's where if somebody has been arrested, they have a right to have a hearing within 48 hours to determine whether the amount of bail that was set initially is appropriate. 72-hour hearings to make sure that the state files a complaint within 72 hours. So someone's not just sitting in jail without actual charges being filed against them. And then arraignments, where I go through the charges against the criminal defendant, go through their constitutional rights, and then depending on what they're being charged with, they might enter a plea, or we would set it for some other type of hearing. So the Incline Justice Court and all of the justice courts in Nevada hears misdemeanor trial. We do everything on misdemeanors. So we do the trial, any plea and sentencing, and then any case compliance. So let's say that I sentence somebody on a misdemeanor driving under the influence. Sometimes I'll do a 12, let's say, 10 days in the Washoe County Jail, but I'm going to suspend that as long as you comply with certain terms and conditions. And so then we do case compliance hearings. I might bring them in every month and just say, are you going to your AA meetings? Have you enrolled in counseling yet? So that's where I keep monitoring and working with individuals, which is something that we are able to do here because our court is so small, in a way that they're not as able to do unless they're in a specialty court in the cities. For gross misdemeanors and felonies, they start in our court, but they don't stay in our court. So I will do all of those everything you see on number 3, and then I'll hold a preliminary hearing if they don't waive it. And what that is a hearing to determine whether there's enough evidence or probable cause for the person to be held to answer to the crime in the district court. So is there enough evidence to require this person to go to Reno and face a criminal trial for a felony or gross misdemeanor? So I've done quite a few of those. If there is enough evidence, we bind it over to the district court. The case is moved to the district court. If there's not enough evidence, the case is dismissed. And then we do drug and alcohol testing and case management for pretrial defendants that live in Incline and Crystal Bay, and post-sentence defendants that live in Incline and Crystal Bay. And this is not just for our own defendants. As a courtesy, if somebody lives here and they are required to do drug and alcohol testing in Reno or Sparks, we do it for them here. So we try to make sure that that's available to everybody that lives here. I'm not sure why it's not. There we go. Okay. So since I took the bench, and long before I ever even thought about being a judge here, I've come across a lot of myths and misconceptions about what it means to live in Lake Tahoe, right? So let's talk about some of these. You might have heard some of these yourself, but I've heard all of these since I took the bench. Everybody in Incline Village in Crystal Bay is ridiculously rich. That's what everybody thinks, right? They call us Income Village. There's no crime in Incline and Crystal Bay. Why would you need a court? Life in Lake Tahoe is easier than it is anywhere else. Incline Village and Crystal Bay aren't rural. I actually went to a rural judges conference 2 weeks ago, and one of the Reno judges who works in the rural, so she got to go to the conference, said, Incline's not rural. And I said, well, we have 3 stoplights, 4 if you count Crystal Bay. I think maybe we're rural, right? And then people at the lake could just go to Reno for court. And that's a big one that we hear, right? Why couldn't we just roll this into the courts in Reno and Sparks? So let's go through what the reality is of living here. I looked this up today, and I knew it was going to be high, but I did not expect to see that 65% of Incline elementary school students are on free or reduced fee lunches. That is very, very high. That number goes down if you look at the middle school and the high school. And I don't know if that's because the students that are at the private school maybe roll in by the high school level. And so there's a little bit more diversity of income. But that tells us that not everybody in Incline and Crystal Bay is rich, certainly. In my experience, anecdotally on the bench, there have only been a couple of people that have asked for a public defender that have not qualified, meaning that they're either on food stamps or some sort of government benefits, or they're making under the federal poverty rate. So the vast majority of the defendants I'm seeing are qualifying for public defenders. I met with the executive director of Tahoe Family Solutions the other day, and they are running into major issues with housing instability right now. There are a lot of people that are not able to pay their rent. They are offering some rent assistance programs, which is really great to know. And there are a lot of people living in their cars. So we may not see the people on the streets that you see in some of the cities because it's too cold, right? But there are a lot of people that are no longer able to afford to live here. We have a fair amount of crime. As Lieutenant Tone just said, they got almost 4,000 calls in the fourth quarter, consistent with what I'm seeing in the court, right? I see everything from minor traffic violations to murder in our court. In fiscal year 2025, I was able to pull that up. So only half of that was when I was on the bench. There were 193 non-traffic criminal cases filed, almost 2,000 traffic cases filed, and that would include DUIs and reckless driving. So just in the criminal realm alone, we're seeing pretty high numbers that you would not necessarily expect here. The most common misdemeanors that I see are hands down driving under the influence. That's number one. Domestic battery is not a far second. This is a big problem in our community that we don't often talk about. A lot of battery not constituting domestic violence, and then of course, not surprisingly, possession of controlled substances. And then in terms of gross misdemeanors and felonies, since taking the bench, I've presided in some form or another over 3 murders, armed robbery, burglary, trafficking of controlled substances. So life in paradise is so easy, right? You get to live in paradise. How could you have any problems there? I don't know if any of you have looked, but there are tons of studies out there that have shown that mountain ski towns across the country, a lot of studies were done in Colorado, in Eagle County, have significantly increased rates of suicidal ideation, substance use and abuse, and mental illness. And why? Because living here is actually hard. It's isolating, it's expensive, and it's hard to find a job. Okay, I already mentioned this. You know, between our 2 towns, we have 4 stoplights, 3 very small public schools. I'm pretty sure that there are 50 students in the freshman class at Incline High School. So these are small schools. We're incredibly isolated because of our geography, and we have very limited resources because many of them have been taken away and gone over the hill. So can people simply go to Reno for court and other services? The answer is no. And the first thing on there has been a problem since I moved here in 1998. There is no public transportation to get there. And now, apparently, we also have less public transportation as of December 11th within Incline and Crystal Bay, which is a huge problem, has been a problem as long as I have been a resident of this town. To get out of the basin, you have to have a reliable vehicle in the summer, and you have to have a fancy 4-wheel drive vehicle in the winter. These people that I'm talking about, the folks that are regular visitors for the Incline Justice Court, they don't have a 4Runner with snow tires on it. And so it's not reasonable, it's not realistic. And it requires a lot of time, right? So if I'm telling somebody, I need you to stop using controlled substances, I need you to keep a job, I need you to comply with the law, right? And to do that, I need you to drug test in Reno 3 times a week. So that requires 6 hours of driving a week. What happens to that job suddenly? They can't keep their job. So it's just not realistic. And then there's this other piece of the folks in Reno don't really know what it feels like to live here. I'll never forget the first time I sat as a substitute judge for Judge Tyrus, probably 15 years ago. I had a probably 75-year-old woman who was pulled over on Mount Rose on a snowy day for not pulling over into one of the pullouts, and she had 10 people behind her. And she came in and she was very apologetic, and she said they hadn't plowed the pullouts, and I was terrified to pull over. And I knew exactly what she was talking about, right? Because I've lived up here for so long. So we have unique challenges that people that haven't ever lived here don't necessarily understand. Okay, so
local problems require local solutions. I think that's sort of why this advisory board was created, I'm guessing, right? And I think having a local community court is absolutely essential for our safety and to support the people in our community who deserve and need their help. So why is it important to keep this court here and make sure that we are fully funded and doing everything that we can for our community? Because this gives the community access to justice, and access to justice is a right. Everybody should be able to access justice in their local community, and we are able to do that here. We do it by being a small court, even though we don't have a lot of staff. We're able to spend time with folks that come through the court, and we do spend time with them, and we try to help, and we try to make a difference. We're also able to offer virtual options. I have to say that Judge Tyrus was really into technology. And so he did a great job of setting up virtual options that we've built upon. So tourists or second homeowners are able to come to those hearings without having to necessarily fly back to Incline. We have staff, all of our staff at this point, that's actual staff of the court, either lives here now or has lived here at some point, which is really helpful in terms of having staff that understands what the community is going through. We're able to refer to local resources when they're available, and we're able to give that individualized support. So I've included a couple of quotes that some defendants that recently finished our program provided to us, because I think it's really important to understand how important what we're doing up here is for our community members. So this one talks about really how going through the criminal system and at the Incline Justice Court changed her life. So I'll just read it in case everybody can't read this. Initially, I was terrified of how this would affect my life and if I could ever actually recover from this uncharted new journey. Thankfully, with the help of the court clerk and judge's open door policy, I was able to not only navigate the process, but thrive because of the genuine care they have for their community. I was treated with dignity, respect, and compassion, all things I didn't expect as I was there for a criminal matter. I live and work in Incline Village, Nevada, so the ability to test in Incline Village was so crucial to the success of completing the program. During my time in the program, I was required to do things that have bettered my life and gave me tools to combat the challenges that ultimately led to my arrest. I never thought I would be writing a letter about how being put through the court process saved my life and gave me back my power. Today, I'm proud of who I am, and I have a different outlook of what my future holds and look forward to the next day without hesitation or fear. Now, had this person made it into drug court in Reno, she probably would have had a similar experience. But not everybody is accepted to drug court. Not everybody is given that individualized time and care and treatment and support that we're able to give because we're a small town court. And this is why I do what I do right here, because we really can work with folks and help them turn their life around. Here's another similar one. He writes, I just wanted to write you an email saying how grateful I am with everyone at the Incline Justice Court. You've all been so nice throughout the 17-ish months I was with you guys. I felt like the fact that you guys were nice and understanding made everything much better in the process of staying sober. The fact that you guys are in town made it better, so that way I didn't have to lose so many work hours having to drive all the way to Reno to test. Also, big shout out to Stephen Brooks and Richard Lee. So that's my deputy clerk and the assistant that comes in occasionally. The fact that they take the time to ask about your day makes it feel like they really care about you staying sober and that you're not just another criminal coming in for testing. Their attitudes make a big difference. Thanks again for everything. Not everybody feels that way when they leave the court. I'm gonna be honest. That's the unfortunate reality. Is this my goal for everybody? 100%. Okay, so what are we doing at the court since I took the bench? So I took the bench in January. I've been very busy learning how to be a judge, I will be honest. But I've also started on a path to a lot of exciting projects. So I had the luxury of working really closely with Washoe County, and I put on the top there because I think it might be the most important, at least as far as my staff is concerned. We got air conditioning installed at the courthouse. which you roll your eyes. Do you remember? Were you ever in the courthouse?
I think your office used to be my office and I had to leave sometimes.
It was getting up to 95 degrees in the courtroom. Judge Tyrus actually posted something on the internet, I think on Facebook, saying, feel free to wear tank tops and shorts and sandals to court. That would not normally be allowed, right? So Washoe County worked with us and installed air conditioning. It was a lot of work because it's an old building, but it is working and it's up and running and everybody's a lot happier. Washoe County also helped us get a security officer. So the way that it was when I arrived, we had our bailiff, who was a deputy sheriff, but he's back in the courtroom with me. And so if somebody's out front causing trouble or trying to get through the metal detector, there was nobody up there. So we now, like the Reno and Sparks justice courts have always had, now also have allied security running folks through the security detectors at the front. We updated our computer systems so that we have even more enhanced virtual appearances than what Judge Tyrus set up, which was already incredible. We installed Wordly. Has anyone heard of Wordly before? Mm-hmm. It's through, well, we got it through the county, so you know, it's incredible. So Wordly is this software that is now on my computer in the courtroom, and the county also provided us with a couple of tablets. And so what you can do is if somebody is speaking another language, you each hold a tablet and you speak in your language and they speak in their language, and whichever tablet you're holding is going to write it for you in the language that you speak. So it's instantaneous interpretation. So we have those at the window, we have tablets at the window, and in the courtroom, we actually have a big screen TV where when I speak, I can have it interpreting in closed caption in another language. So this was really, really helpful. Soon after we got this, we had a Russian defendant, and we couldn't get a Russian interpreter because we hadn't made it to the next one yet. And so we weren't able to speak back and forth with him yet. But what I was able to do was set it up on the screen in the courtroom so that I said, we're continuing your hearing until such and such date when we can have a Russian interpreter. And he was reading everything I was saying in Russian on the screen. So that was step one. Step two was we've now set up instantaneous interpretation through the language line via Zoom. So when he came back for that next meeting, we had somebody sign on to Zoom, took 2 seconds. You just pick your language, they sign on. It's really, really incredible. So we have that in the courtroom and on Zoom available. And then I also labored over developing a new website. I would encourage everybody to look at this. I tried to make it sensical. I tried to make it so that people could actually look at the website and understand what we do and how they can access whatever services they need. If you take a look at this and you have any feedback for me, please be my guinea pigs. I want this to be user-friendly. So please take a look at it and let me know what works, what needs a little bit more refinement. I really would appreciate that feedback. Okay, what else have we done sort of within the court? Those were all together with Washoe County. We changed the court schedule to increase attorney presence at all stages of criminal cases. When I came on, the arraignments were on the Tuesday civil calendar, and that's the defendant's first appearance in court. And they didn't have a public defender there. So now we do every stage of criminal proceedings on Wednesdays. I have a public defender and a district attorney there. No criminal defendant is coming in front of me without an attorney present, because I think that's really important. And it's been very well received by both the public defenders and the district attorney's offices. They like being there and being part of that.
No defendants coming without criminal attorney?
So no, we don't have a hearing where a criminal attorney wouldn't be present if they qualify for the public defender. So if they don't qualify for the public defender, then I can't require private attorneys to be there. So that's a great question. Again, the vast majority of our cases have the public defender, but private attorneys are a little more complicated because I don't have any control over asking them when to be there outside of set court hearings. So great question. I implemented mandatory status conferences for all criminal cases. So that is similar to mediation. It's an opportunity for defense counsel, whether private or public defender, and the district attorney to meet to try to reach some sort of a plea agreement. They're not required to, but I do set unless they absolutely don't want it. I set almost all of the cases for this before they then come in for trial to give them at least a chance to talk and work it out. We partnered with the Neighborhood Mediation Center, so we have implemented a mandatory mediation program for all small claims cases, because what I found was that most of those cases could have been resolved outside of court with the help of a neutral third party. But by the time it comes to me, I usually have to pick a winner and a loser. And so by giving them the opportunity to try mediation, if there's any way for them to reach a resolution that works for both of them, there's not just a clear winner and a loser, then they might walk away a little bit happier. Again, in a small town where it might be neighbors, it's definitely going to be people that see one another at Rayleigh's again. I want to offer this as an option. They're not required to reach an agreement, but they have the option before I rule on a case. And then I looked at a bunch of different online programs, and I landed on courtsolutionsonline.com to offer online classes for individuals that need to take classes. So there's like a petty larceny class, there's a marijuana use class, there are driving under the influence classes. Some of our folks can't make it to in-person classes in Reno, and sometimes they can't because they're incarcerated. So I found a program, I watched all of their classes, I took their tests to make sure that it was actually valid, and I worked with them, so they offer a discount to defendants. It's pretty affordable. And then I am currently, it's not done, but it's on the 2025 projects because it's going to be done by the end of the year. That's my plan. I'm in the process of creating a resource corner at the courthouse. So after you go through security, before you come to the window, there's a corner, and we are setting up a computer, a printer, and a resource space. The computer is going to have access to our website, which has all of our forms on it, and it's going to have access to all of the local resources that might be helpful to our community. So Sierra Community House, Tahoe Family Solutions, anyone else that you think we should include. This is where all of your comments are going to come in. And I've also asked all of these entities to bring me pamphlets and flyers so that I can put out physical flyers as well. So we're in the process of this, creating this, and it should be done in the next month or so. I have meetings with legal services entities and different folks coming up. That was pretty much my presentation. And at this point, I would love just to get some feedback in terms of what should I present to the county? What if that was helpful? What is not helpful? What's missing?
Okay. Again, the way we handle this is we start with members of the board. If asked their questions, we have one board member online. And then we'll go to any questions that you have in the room and online questions there. So wow, I'm very impressed. I'm still very hopeful. I never have to avail myself of your services, but it is good to know how much is there. You touched on this, but I do think this is a unique characteristic of our community that you might want to elaborate on a little bit, and that is the tourism, the population volatility, the fact that we're close to 20,000 people in midsummer, and then like this time of year, we're down to 9,000 or 10,000. So that's registered tourists. No, that's not registered, so there's population, STRs and not STRs, but some of the population. Anyway, wild guess, but we do have a population volatility. Does that affect your demand in your court?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that would be something that you might want to just highlight. I think it's a general issue around the area. I mean, it's an issue standing in line at Rayleigh's. I always try to remind myself when I'm in a long line during peak season that those people are paying taxes that I won't have to. So welcome to Lake Tahoe. I have a question on short-term rentals. Is that does that come up much? Do we have neighbors versus neighbors or any issues around that?
That's not something that has come before me at all, and I
Okay.
think that that's because of the nature of that landlord-tenant agreement.
Yeah.
So we have very limited jurisdiction. I generally see summary eviction for non-payment of rent is the most common landlord-tenant issue that I see, and that's not happening in the short-term rental because they pay up.
I was not thinking so much the landlord tenant because it is under 30 days, so
Right.
It's over very quickly. I was thinking neighbor. Have any neighbors brought a suit complaining about anything there?
No,
So
not that I've seen. I mean,
Okay.
it's possible that it could arise in the context of small claims or a civil claim, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. And then I did want to, since one of our issues that we deal with is workforce housing. You mentioned evictions, and of course, you've only been in the place for a year, but do you know of any trends? How is that going compared to previous years? Is that anything you have a feel for?
That I don't know offhand compared to previous years. Yeah, I only know what I've seen. So, and they're happening.
All right.
So, and the director of Tahoe Family Solutions told me that one of the bigger apartment complexes is set to raise rent significantly soon.
Okay.
And so I think we're gonna see even greater property sales coming up.
All right, great. Thanks, Diane.
Yes, I wondered, it was great to see the list of types of cases. This whole presentation was excellent, because I always wondered what was done next. I enjoyed it. And I wondered, do you do any level or size of injunctions or declaratory relief or specific performance, or would that all have to go down?
So that could be done through the civil cases, so not as small claims. Small claims is money damages only, and like I said, while that could be done potentially in a civil case, it would be rare to see it in the justice court. I have not had that case come up yet.
What would the limitation be on what kind of a case could be brought? I know in California that those types of cases in certain circumstances can be brought as kind of specific. So would it be a size, the number of days that the case would take?
So the jurisdictional limit is really the $15,000 maximum financial limit, is really the limiting factor, which is why we don't see many of those civil cases. So any case that looks like that, you may have somebody claim those, but chances are it's gonna happen in district court.
What if there were no damages? They were just saying, oh, I want you to do,
I'd have to see what the nature of the claim was.
That's just interesting.
Yeah.
I had one other comment. On resources, I think what would be really valuable is if you worked with I guess the Reno housing group
Yeah.
to bring up their information and, you know, even push it a little farther eventually that, you know, that we could get maybe more, you know, more access to funding, et cetera. They don't have a lot of funding.
The Reno Housing Authority,
Yes.
are you talking like
Yes.
Section 8
Yes.
vouchers? Yes. I
So-
think that the Tahoe Family Solutions is talking to them.
Right, you alluded to Jody Wright, who
Mhm.
actually is on the cab as an
Mhm.
alternate, and she is now the director at Tahoe Family Solutions. She told me that the only service that they're getting from Reno Housing right now is vouchers. In other words, a partial payment for rent to help people out. But I know there are some other services, and so we're actually going to have a session with them, I hope, early next year in March or so, with Reno Housing and the local housing people here. You might want to come to that one,
Absolutely.
to see if we can't get a little bit more going. Reno Housing didn't even cover Washoe until a couple of years ago, so we were just on our own.
And I think that a lot of these entities don't realize, because of all these misperceptions, that we need this. So the court has actually been paying court fees into the Neighborhood Mediation Center for years. And it wasn't until this summer that we implemented a mandatory mediation program. So we are working with them for free because it's covered by our court fees. But they didn't, it just had never been set up. So I think there's a lot of that out there. Entities that technically cover Incline and Crystal Bay, but don't even know that we need help.
Right. I do want to add, Roxana again, I do want to add that we have apparently taken homeless people up to the housing that is available in Reno. So it's not that we're getting nothing, but there are more services that they have than just that and the vouchers, and we would like to be able to play in that game too. All right, any other board questions? Denise?
Denise Davis. So I'm gonna help out my pals at the library here. I was here one day when this happened. Somebody came in, and because the library is next door to the Justice Court, they get asked a lot of questions about legal issues. And this one specifically was, this woman needed to get a restraining order. And it was a domestic violence situation. So now that that is all through a different entity, how does that work now? Do people have to go to Reno to do that?
They don't have to go to Reno to fill out the forms, but the court that handles it is in Reno. So Sierra Community House has a robust program for victims of domestic violence. So certainly a referral could be made to them. They do have advocates on staff that I believe will help them fill out the applications. Part of my resource corner, the website is going to have a link to the Second Judicial District Court, which is where they can get those forms. And like I said, we'll have a printer so they can fill them out. We're trying to increase access so that it's not more difficult, but if it's a domestic relationship, I don't have jurisdiction here. So it has to go through the Second Judicial District.
So the next part of my question is, the reason I remember this was because it was a Friday when the court isn't open.
Yeah.
And so at the time, you know, the library staff was like, you know, urgently trying to figure out what to do.
Of course.
And nobody had an answer. So just so I can pass along info to them.
So that's why I created a new website, because I want something that's accessible all the time, that has information that can actually be helpful to people. So start there. I tried to make it all easy to read and easy to make sense of. It's still, there's some legalese, but I tried to, minimize that. Start with the website. Second Judicial District Court also has a website. If you Google domestic violence protection order, Washoe County, you can pretty easily find all of that information on the Second JP's website. And I'm guessing that the sheriff's office is also available.
So the substation is closed Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays. So the advice that we eventually got at a later date was go over to the substation and use the phone at the substation and go from there.
They also always have the option of the non-emergency number. When the non-emergency number goes to dispatch, they'll assign it to a Incline assigned deputy. And all of our deputies have domestic violence forms in English and Spanish. They have a list of the resources, phone numbers, and what they need to call to get that handled, as well as they can talk to that person.
Okay, great. Do you have that website, on the sign at your door for Fridays?
I don't, but that's a great idea. I will write that down. The second judicial district or ours? Or
Well,
yours or both?
if I come on a Friday and I
Yeah.
want a restraining
Yeah, that's a
order
great idea.
for my abusive husband,
Yeah,
etc.
and, yeah, and specifically,
Or my landlord.
you know, if you're looking for a restraining order, do this.
Absolutely.
And also maybe let the library people know, since people would wander over here with distress in their eyes.
Yes.
So there you go. Okay, any further questions from the board? No, any questions in the room? Okay, we have a very polite audience tonight. We don't always. Anyone online? Here we go. Helen Neff, good. I was hoping you'd have some ideas. Helen.
Helen F. Incline Village resident, and thank you very much for your presentation. That was excellent and so nice to hear from you. So in 2021, I became familiar with our local court as the victim of a pedestrian crash. And I just want to reinforce to anyone in the room or listening who has not had to go to court for some reason, that it was very helpful to have the court located locally. The staff was incredibly accommodating and helpful, and it was just a very traumatic process for me. I wanted to get some justice. I just left my house to go for a walk on a Sunday afternoon, and it was 52 days before I could come home. And we talk about helping people with mental issues. I think I had a lot. I think I still have some, but that's a whole nother story. So obviously, traffic safety is a big concern of mine. And I know that you're working very hard to help local residents keep their feet on the ground, but also as firm as you can be regarding DUIs and speeding to get our village to have a little bit more adherence to the traffic laws would be greatly appreciated by me, past victims, and, to avoid future issues. I would appreciate that part. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. You'll appreciate I had a defendant the other day actually say in court, well, I know it's technically illegal, but usually you don't get a ticket if it's only 6 miles an hour over. And I said, well, as you said, it's technically illegal. So I agree, Ms. Neff, and thank you for sharing that.
Jim Dykstra?
Thank you for that presentation. And I was wondering, has there been any progress made on finding a permanent location for the court?
Next door.
So I am not aware that there are any conversations about moving it from its current location. It was moved to this location, I think, almost 2 years ago to the date, later this month, 2 years ago. We have been working hard in the last couple of months to make it work for our needs and make it accessible to the community. There are limitations of where we are. We can't hold a jury trial, and cases involving domestic battery have a right to a jury trial because if convicted, you lose your right to bear firearms. And so the law in the state of Nevada requires us to allow a jury trial for those. Those have to be held in the Sparks Justice Court. And they've been very wonderful about providing us with that space because those cases are few and far between that actually go. The cases are frequent, but the ones that actually go all the way to jury trial are not. And so I'm not aware that we are moving anytime soon, but certainly would be open to finding a space that had space for a jury box.
Well, I would be happy to share with you an article back 2.5 years ago when the court was first approved to move into that building and modify it, that this was going to be a temporary space and that the court has taken half of the community center space and cut off additional space they were going to get and left the 2 rooms that you see there now completely full of junk and dirty and construction debris. And I had to clean it up to get the community center going again. And now that the Forest Service is out of there, if you guys were in another location, we could have an amazing community center there.
Yeah, I wish that I could say that I had the power to do that. This decision was made by the county before I took the bench. I'm sorry to hear that you had to do the cleanup. I've actually reached out to the senior services and the library, and we're hopefully meeting soon to talk about how best to share that space, because I agree it could be more amazing than it is for the spaces out front. But that's something that I can certainly look into, but it's not something that has been communicated to me since I took the bench.
Well, yeah, because those kind of conversations have never taken place to my knowledge. The space was pretty much just taken from the community center. But I'm going to warn you, when you go to Washoe County, their judges are very overloaded in the other courts. And when you look at, I know you're working hard, but when you look at the caseload per judge in those other jurisdictions, it's much heavier. And our population that you serve versus the population served by each of those judges is like half. And so I think you really have to focus on the questions you're going to get are, you were a virtual court during the pandemic and everything seemed to work. And so if we brought you to somewhere in the Reno Justice Court, you could continue to do virtual court and we wouldn't need all the security that you have there now. And we could potentially economize on your staff by leveraging the resources that exist in that Reno building. And if Washoe County is looking to save money so that they can deal with their overloaded courts in Reno and Sparks, they may look to consolidate you into what they have.
So by statute, every township is required to have a justice court. So we are not part of the Reno Township or the Sparks Township. We are the Incline Village Crystal Bay Township. So absent a modification of statute, I think it would be hard for that to happen. I also think there's no question but that we are providing very different services here. They have drug courts, they have significantly more court staff. Like I said, I have 4 total humans on staff. So while our caseload is lower, we are each carrying a lot of different responsibilities that the judges, my counterparts that are judges that are just working as judges, are doing. So our court, I understand what you're saying and I hear you, but our court and what we're doing for our community and our responsibilities within the court are all very different from what they're doing in the urban areas. We look a lot more like the rural areas like Wadsworth and Tonopah and Winnemucca. That's why I'm in the rural justice of the peace group, right? Because we are running a rural court. We're not running an urban court. And I think I agree with you that they'll bring it up. But I think the key is just understanding that we are not an urban court. We're not an urban environment.
Well,
Okay,
what
Jim,
would it take for them to end up
Jim.
being a township?
Jim, the way we handle this, and this is partly for note taking, et cetera, but we don't do dialogue a lot. You're able to ask a question, then we get an answer. So we cannot continue this conversation. You've had your time. You've made some very good points, and I appreciate that. But we do need to move on. So let me call Kathy Julian.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Listen, I think it was an excellent presentation, so I thank Melissa for that. I also think that whatever you do, do not take the part out about how unique our rural area is. And you might want to mention about how high the passes are to get to Reno. And frankly, my own personal view is we seldom see Reno-based people here, other than our lovely sheriff's department who religiously come, and the teachers who religiously come over the pass. But it's difficult to get folks over the pass in the winter. So why are we expecting our poor population who are transportation challenged to be going back and forth over the mountain passes? So I really appreciated your perspective on how unique our area is. And thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see any more questions. Denise, you have another
I
comment?
do have one more question, Denise Davis. The county commissioners just eliminated the Department of Alternative Sentencing. Does that have any effect on your court or your domain?
Yes and no, because we are separate and it's hard to get to Reno. It's not really helpful for me to send defendants over to Reno to work with the Department of Alternative Sentencing. So that's why we do so much in-house. That's why we do our drug testing in-house. That's why my staff is working with defendants on their alternative sentencing, right? So we didn't use them in the same way that the Reno and Sparks courts did because it really wasn't convenient for the defendants. And so for the most part, it's not going to change how we're functioning within our court. What it will hopefully change, and my hope, and this is sort of where this conversation stemmed from, is that perhaps this is an opportunity for us to gain more resources to support that we are already doing that the other courts were getting from the Department of Alternative Sentencing. So if they're eliminating DAS, and it's not clear what exactly is going to happen yet in terms of what that will look like, my hope is that we get some more support up here so that we can continue offering these services here locally.
Great. Excellent. Thank you so much. Especially thank you for stepping in on such short notice. And if you put all that together in 4 days, wow. So hopefully your talk with the commissioners will go very well. I think you have a very compelling argument. As a former consultant in presenting, I would suggest you shorten it down just a little bit. But what you're doing now is just putting everything out there, but kind of focus and make a few. They're only going to remember 2 things. So try to think of the 2 things that you want them to remember.
They're not going to give me nearly that much time either. So I have to shorten it. They're just going to cut me off.
More personal interest in it here.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really great.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item then is Neighborhood Development Hub, Alexandra. And Alexandra, you were also going to give us a demo, and I should have mentioned this before the meeting started, about how to give inputs for topics.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't take too long. While she's getting this up, at our last meeting, we did a kind of a poll on what topics you want to hear in the next year or so. The top ones were evacuation, and then the Tahoe Area Plan amendments, which are effectively changing zoning laws around here. And since we have people who may not be that familiar with it, TRPA is more or less imposing on all of the localities around the lake higher heights allowed, more density allowed, and what's the other? Coverage. Coverage doesn't affect it as much. Reduced coverage, yes. And they're doing this ostensibly to help with workforce housing, which we all are sympathetic about. in any case, they are now doing phase 3, which will increase the heights yet again. So people are very concerned about that. That continues to be an issue here. Another one that was on the list is accessory dwelling units, which they have loosened up the restrictions on that. So it's easier for people to make larger ADUs on their property. And so that's another one that people are interested in. E-bikes is our favorite little song to sing every meeting or two, because we have a problem with e-bikes here, of course, because we don't really have an infrastructure that supports pedestrians and bicycles at the same time. And we have a lot of people on e-bikes who are fairly new to bicycling and don't really understand the rules of the road. So that is another one of our key topics. So do you remember another one on there? I thought I had brought the thing with me, but I think that was.
Granted, I think we voted for our top 3, so those will be the priority.
Yeah.
We do have 11 months to fill, and census because of the holiday. And so we'll be going to more.
Yes.
And you mentioned waste management was also a topic. Recycling.
Can you be heard? I don't know if they can hear you on the thing. You're not with the speaker? Okay, well, it's part of the neighborhood hub. Okay, go ahead and do the hub. You're right. Yeah.
They can hear me out. Can you guys hear me okay online? Yes, okay, perfect. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Melissa. So Alexander Wilson for the record, you guys should be able to see my screen online as well as in person. So this is our neighborhood development hub. We go over this every month. And I generally highlight the projects that are upcoming. And so they are listed here at the bottom section of the page. At this moment, we do only have 2 that are not within this district, one for District 4 as well as District 5. However, if you're like me and you like to know a little bit of everything about a little bit of everything, you are welcome to tune into those. They are both online. The way you are able to get more information about these neighborhood development hubs whenever they come up, our team posts them through Nextdoor, and then this community services department posts them through the hub as well as an email blast that goes out to the district and this list of individuals that are curious about it. So you can sign up here on the page, just putting in your email address and which district you live in. Again, you can click all of them, or you can click all neighborhood meetings. That way you get all the information sent to your inbox. It might be a little bit cumbersome to go through them, but deleting is far better than not knowing that they're happening. So just know that that's available to you. You did mention affordable housing. So I did want to show you kind of what that looks like when you are clicking into a project. This one right here is affordable housing density bonus. Because it applies to all districts, it's not assigned necessarily, but it'll give you what the project name is, who the developer is. So Washoe County is proposing this from our community services department. It'll also give you a brief description of what that project entails. And then it will let you know that it is upcoming. So this is one that hasn't been scheduled yet for a development meeting. But once it is and we have the date, we'll go ahead and again update this and send it out to the districts. This will be an all district email for anyone who signed up for a singular district as well as all districts. Once that project, let me pick one that has occurred already so you can see kind of what it looks like. So once that project meeting has occurred, it will include additional information. So this one was heard September 23rd of 2025. So all the project documents that were provided as a part of that meeting, including the invitation that was sent out, the affected area, who was in attendance, an audio and hopefully a video file as well, is required by the developer to upload into our system. So you can listen in, see what happened. And then if you weren't able to attend, you can provide feedback at any time while this project is on the hub. Usually I would say generally they stay on here for about 2 to 3 months on average, although that can move along depending on the development itself. If it doesn't move forward, it'll generally stay here or it'll get closed out. If it does move forward, I'll show you what that looks like, but I did want to show you when you click submit feedback. It asks you to provide your information, your address. They do want to know generally in relation to the project, is it more of a concern for you as opposed to people that don't live in the area? Whether or not you agree or disagree with the project, you can also provide a neutral stance, and then your comments. Again, if you're like me and your best ideas come at 3 a.m., then you have the ability to submit your feedback at 3 a.m. And they'll get that information. The feedback that's provided, it's summarized by our planners and provided to the governing board that it's being assigned to. So whether it's the planning commission, which is most often, our board of adjustment, if there's an appeal, you'll see it go to the board of county commissioners. And so generally it goes along that path. Once these projects again move off of the development hub because a meeting has occurred and they're going to be moving further into the process, we have this nifty link for all Washoe County applications that are received for the county. They are broken up by district, so if you're curious, you can click into your district. There's also multi-district and all district applications, which is what we've seen, and then current applications and rejected applications, so you can see any of those that are listed. So for District 1, if we were to click in here, the reason I really like this, and this is a development that we helped create about 4 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago, is it has all the information in one sort of digestible area. So if you click into the case, it should download the documents for that case, including the application and any submitted documents. It'll let you know who the planner in charge of that is with their contact information. So if you have any questions, a lot of those questions I can't answer here because I'm not a subject matter expert. I just communicate, I'm a messenger. But you can email them directly to get those questions answered. It'll let you know which area it is affecting, as well as when it is tentatively scheduled to go before the board, and then which board is going to be hearing it. And so this should click over to that board page. So for example, this is a grading permit for this address. The planner in charge is Jolene Bertero. It affects the Tahoe area. It is tentatively scheduled for January 5th, which is their first meeting for the Board of Adjustment. So if you were interested, you can click into it, see the agenda, see more details about it, attend the meeting via Zoom or in person. And so all of that, again, is nicely packaged onto one page. And so that is the Neighborhood Development Hub. If anyone has any questions, I can help walk you through it, how to access it, where to sign up, and then any information for getting in contact with those who do have the answers to those questions. Otherwise, there is also the Neighborhood Development Hub. Here on the screen. Yep. So we developed this last year. We're going to be adding more tiles to it, so it's a little bit more fun, more engaging. But we kicked it off with our community input portals. So each portal page was developed roughly around the CAB districts. But you don't have to live in the CAB district to provide feedback. Anyone in those areas is able to provide feedback. So for example, we have Incline Village, Crystal Bay. Some of our other areas, we have a Sun Valley CAB, as well as Gerlach, Spanish Springs. We have 9 CABs technically throughout the county, with 8 that are active. And so each of them has their own page because, as you know, you guys are unique in your areas of concern, issues, interests, and so on. So with Incline Village, and this is accessible from Washoe County's page, but I can also provide you the link. So here you have a couple of different things. This needs to be updated, obviously, because that was a little bit in the past. But we provide important dates, so we actually list the CAB meetings here, so we should update that, especially for the new year, since those are all laid out. You can sign up for District 1 emails, as well as participate in the CAB input. We call it a survey, but that's just the way we're able to provide to collect feedback. So if you participate, this is an area where you can share some ideas. So what, I don't know, I'm not sure what's happening on the screen. So what topics or ideas or questions do you have pertaining to your area within Washoe County? Simple as that. It's the same sort of information we ask at our CABs. Any other information, any other topics, submit your survey, and we receive those on our commissioner support team, since we are the liaisons for all of our citizen advisory boards. So again, if you have any topics, it doesn't have to be sent here. You can send it to the CAB as a whole. You can send it to my email. You can text me, call me. You can also submit it online. So you have a lot of opportunities.
Have we had any submissions ever?
We have. There haven't been many. And then we've also looked at adding a contact on here, an optional contact, because we have gotten feedback where it's particular cases, not necessarily for the cab to address. So one of the things we got, for example, is it wasn't here, but my weeds need to be pulled. Well, okay, that's something that we can do, and we can certainly put in the service request, but we didn't know who it was that needed it. And again, it wasn't for the cab necessarily to address unless we saw it as like a bigger problem. Yeah. And so we use this in a couple different ways, again, to propel what topics we want at the cabs, to propel what type of community topics maybe we want to address as a larger audience, because even though you guys are unique, there are similar things. Traffic, everyone has issues with traffic, whether you're at Pyramid Highway or Highway 431.
Okay, would you go out and come back in one step at a time so we know how to get to this page?
Absolutely. So on the Washoe County page, go into washoecounty.gov.
Okay.
On our main page is community input here. So under your search bar on how can we help you?
Okay.
So these are kind of our most frequently asked stuff. So most people want to work for us because we're fantastic and have fun. A lot of people want to pay their property taxes, at least not to get penalties. Individuals are very interested in our budget as well as providing feedback. So community input will take you directly to that page that I showed. And then you can click in. This was for our budget workshop. Again, we'll be building more. I actually have an engagement page for our swift exit evacuation study. That's going to be sent out, if not this week, next week. So you guys will see that on the community input or its own tile. But these are the ones, again, where you can provide feedback.
Okay.
And I can show you how to input that too.
Okay.
In the future, when you get public input, is that something sent to the chair of the cab?
It's actually sent to the commissioner to determine what they want to do with it. And like I said, we haven't received many viable ones. I would say for the cab, this cab specifically, maybe 2 submissions in the last year that we've had it open. So I would encourage you guys to use it if and when you can. But I also think there's a lot of avenues to provide feedback. And I think that's why this is more of like the catch-all of if someone's not able to attend the cab, if they're not able to come in person, then they at least have this online option that's always available. So if and the reason we go through it first and then we send it to the commissioner is just so that they're aware if any issues pop up. So we talk about the leads. If they put feedback here, if they contact 301 and then their commissioner, we want to let them know that we heard them and that we're getting to it if we have that contact information. Or maybe we can link up those feedbacks to an individual if they submitted them around the same time. If again it is a cab topic, we'll send it over to the cab chair and say, hey, this is something that people want to hear about. And it probably most likely goes along with the list that we already have because those are frequently asked topics in the community.
Okay, great. Go ahead, you have a question?
So I assume if somebody left a cab related item at Washoe 311, it would eventually get to you too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually started off in 301, so I'm very familiar with the system. We also are in very close proximity with our 301 staff, and we're in constant communication with them as well. And so anything having to do with cabs, ECC, escalated constituents, regional agencies, those types of things, we get all of those notices directly from the system when they're inputted. Or I don't know if input is a word. Input. Yeah, it's not bad.
Okay. Before we go to the closing general public comment, I want to let everybody know that our December cab will not be held because it's the week of Christmas. So we're going to take that month off. The cab meeting in January will be discussing with representatives from TRPA the transportation projects. In particular, there is a program called the Federal Transportation Improvement Program, where you can get funding from the federal government, ostensibly, hopefully, to do transportation-related improvement projects.
TRPA has, at least for the last several years, focused those projects on areas outside of Incline Village, so it might be on 28, but it's not inside our town. We feel that there are some safety improvements that could be made, and so we will be discussing that in particular with those people in January. So that's our, I think it's January 26th, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, our January CAB meeting. All right, yes, question?
I do also want to share with our new county manager, Kate Thomas. She's going to be making a round at all the cabs too, starting in January and February. Probably
Okay,
in February.
so yeah, so you and I'll discuss what month we get her. Okay, hopefully February. I'm reserving February for it.
Really good. And that's.
Okay, let's go to general public comments. Again, anyone can say whatever they want to. If somebody who was mute earlier is now inspired, Helen Neff.
Hi, Helen Neff again, Incline Village. So I just want to circle back to what you were saying in the beginning of the meeting about Tart Express closing down in Incline Village, and throw out there the idea that maybe this service should not be a free service, because certainly there are people that can pay for the service. I think local employees, low income, seniors, and other families, or whoever's low income and students, should get some kind of discount. But there's so much software out there now to run this type of program, to be able to charge for it and, have it supported somewhat by fares on a fair basis. There's a very interesting article out, and I sent it to Commissioner Hill and also to Jim Marino at TTD. And the article brings up the point that by not charging for transit, you are telling people that their time is not important, which I thought was a very interesting concept. And if you can charge and provide better service, that provides more dignity for the people that are using the services. Thank you. I'll send that to you, Roxana.
Yeah, thank you. Interesting.
Did I run out of time, or can I say one more thing?
You haven't run out of time, so go for it.
Okay, just very quickly, because I noticed that the judge is still there. I did get the traffic report for the crash that occurred on August 20th, and it was a driver who ran the red light at Village and Highway 28. And that's the one that involved the Honda SUV and the Tesla and the e-bike rider who was actually just on the sidewalk. So it just brings up another indication of how speed and distracted driving. The citation was for running a red light. I'm not a highway patrol person or a judge, but I would say that that's definitely reckless driving at 10 o'clock in the morning if you're going to run a red light on that street. Thank you.
Okay. Denise Davis.
Public comment. Just to follow up on the previous public comment, the TARP Connect service in the Incline Village service area did charge a fee. I believe it was $3, but only in the Incline service area only. Also wanted to remind everyone that the TRPA is going to hold public meetings on housing policies at the Advisory Planning Commission meeting on December 10th. And I believe that will be at the TRPA offices in South Shore. And that is the only date I can remember off the top of my head, and fine. So thanks.
Is this the TAP amendments again?
No,
Is this the phase 3 something else?
no, this is like the next round of housing discussions they want to have, I believe.
Isn't that phase 3?
No,
Okay.
this is
Okay.
the next round that they're gonna do probably next year. So. They have a rolling calendar of, where, they have their long-term plan and a rolling calendar of how they're gonna get there, so.
Okay, I'll talk to you afterwards. I'm confused. All right, any other, general public comments? Okay, then I will, ask for an adjournment.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The easiest